Greetings to you all, gamers and strategists, and welcome back to our channel. 4X are highly detailed, even compared to other strategy games. And while this complexity is necessary to allow for an immersive and engaging empire building experience, this can result in new players feeling a little bit lost at the start of the game, and even veteran 4X players can take a little while to orient themselves to a new title. This is a short tutorial video aimed at newer players to Galactic Civilizations IV Supernova, with a brief breakdown of the main game mechanics encountered in the early game. So, let's get into it. After selecting a civilization to play as, setting the map generation settings and the AI opponents in play, the game begins. We've picked the Terran Alliance here as they're a carbon-based species that require food, and are a balanced faction that can be played in many different ways, a good pick for a new player. Here, we'll find our civilization's home orbiting its starting system, with the rest of the sector covered by the fog of war, with only the stars themselves visible to the player. Clicking on any star not covered by the fog of war displays all of its orbiting planets, asteroids, and strategic resources, whether they can be seen by the player or not. This can help in planning your expansion. We can also spend some control on the Executive Order Telescope Takeover to uncover the fog of war from any area of the map, and hopefully reveal some juicy planets ripe for colonization. The Terran Alliance starts with 3 ships. Let's send the probe to scout out the closest yellow star system, which has a higher probability of containing habitable planets. The flagship will survey the closest anomaly, and the colony ship we'll use to colonize Mars. This colony will send its mineral and influence resources back to our core world, Earth. Core worlds are colonized planets with an assigned governor, allowing the player to take a direct hand in their management. The hex tiles represent a region, each with its own terrain type, ready to be developed with districts and improvements. Each type of district provides a bonus to the core world's planetary output, and improvements are unique constructions with more specialised effects. Districts and improvements have an adjacency bonus that increase their various effects when placed next to others of their kind, and each terrain type will give a bonus to whatever is placed on top of it too. Let's place the capital city first. Note that it has a +2 level to all adjacency bonus, so we want to place it so it can have as many attached districts or improvements as possible, and if we can place it on a terrain that boosts our population total, like grassland, that'd be a big help. The capital city can be demolished and replaced at will if you make a mistake. Note there's already something in the build queue, the Colonial Leadership Council. Build this first, as it enables us to recruit and assign leaders to our government in subsequent turns. Next, we can place the Industrial Centre improvement, which will give us a manufacturing boost to get these constructions finished even faster. We can place this next to the capital city for that +2 boost to manufacturing, or we can place this on a forest tile somewhere else, hoping to surround it with manufacturing districts later on. This is a unique improvement, but it is cheap, and can be deconstructed and rebuilt somewhere else if we find a better core world for it later on. We can rush build it to get it up and running next turn, and our Colonial Leadership Council will be completed next turn too. There's great fun to be had in planning your optimal planetary layout, but while you're learning the game, you don't need to overthink it. A core world is populated by citizens. You can see them all here. Given enough food, they'll reproduce and your population will steadily grow. Each citizen has an approval score, and keeping them happy is very important, as approval is applied as a multiplier to all your resource production, and if it's low, your economy will seriously struggle. We'll cover the game's economy in greater detail in a separate video, but the basics are as follows. Core worlds and any attached colonies combine their resources to create planetary input, which is then processed by citizens, districts, and improvements into the various planetary output resources. These resources are manufacturing for building up your core worlds, research for discovering new technologies, taxable income, food for sustaining population growth, and influence for expanding your cultural borders. Manufacturing also generates a resource called military, which is used by your shipyards for building ships. Before we end the turn, there are a few things to take care of. First, we should set our scientists' minds on a new technological project. Research candidates are listed on the right of the screen, while here we have a list of technologies that come with a discounted research cost of 50%, meaning our scientists will complete them twice as fast as usual. Pick Colonial Policies, whether it's discounted or not, as completing it will allow us to set our tax rate and civilization policies. If you want to see the bigger picture and plan out your research schedule, hit the Tech Navigator button at the bottom of the screen to show the technology trees for engineering, colonization, warfare, and governance. Finally, we have an idle shipyard sponsored by our core world, which is supplying it with military, our shipbuilding resource. On the right, we have a list of predefined ships. Currently, just a colony ship for colonizing planets, a constructor for building starbases, a supply ship that gives a core world a big load of manufacturing points to help them get their industry started quickly, and a probe, a small fast craft with an infinite range and a large sensor sweep designed for exploring the galaxy and determining the positions of enemy starbases and fleet formations. It's usually a good strategy to quickly determine the location of the best habitable worlds and strategic resources, as well as finding your rivals out there in space. So we'll add a probe to the build queue, and then we're going to rush build it. This will temporarily upset the citizens on Earth, as they're working overtime to get it finished, and it also costs extra credits and some control points, so think carefully before you do this. Approval penalties can be quite punishing, and credits are valuable in the early game, but we want eyes on our surrounding systems as quickly as possible, and so this price is worth paying. At the start of turn 2, we'll usually have completed Colonial Policies, depending on our starting research. From this point on, your research goals will depend on the game position around you, but it's usually a good choice to pick anything that increases ship range or movement speed, like subspace scanning or artificial gravity. The AI likes to expand quickly, and you'll want to keep a pace of it too. Other good choices are Universal Translator for communications and trade with alien civilizations, and armed shuttles if you've started close to pirates or a potentially hostile empire. Colonial Policies has given us access to the Civilization Overview, where we can set our empire's tax rate and assign civilization policies. These represent aspects of your civilization's developmental focus and provide significant bonuses, with some penalties to balance them. Let's pick Coerced Colonization, which will double our population's growth rate at the expense of a big drop in approval. Shoving families onto colony ships isn't a particularly nice thing to do to your people after all. This approval drop will affect resource production, so to compensate for that, we'll lower the tax rate, dropping our overall income but improving approval again. Overall here, we've doubled our growth rate at the expense of some resource production. The Colonial Leadership Council improvement allows us to access the Leaders screen. Here, we can make a one-time payment and receive the lifelong servitude of a leader that can be assigned various jobs, from ministers and governors through to faction members. We'll not cover everything a leader can do in this tutorial, so for now, we'll just focus on ministers and governors. At the start of the game, we'll want the Minister of Exploration to increase the range of all our ships, and the Minister of Technology to speed up research, and add a third 50% cost reduction technology slot. Ken Egg here has a low intelligence of 3, and is unsuited for the Minister of Technology position, but a very high diligence of 13, and will make a perfect Minister of Exploration, boosting our ship's move by 13 hexes. You can see the increased range on your ships by clicking on them, remembering that probes have a module that already grants them infinite range. Marcy Lickett here is the opposite, with a high intelligence and a lower diligence score. She'll be perfect as our Minister of Technology. We'll continue to explore the sector with our 2 probes, and can finally colonize Mars. We're now faced with a decision. This is called an event, and the choice we make here will determine a reward. In this case, let's increase the mineral output of Mars to give Earth a bit of a manufacturing boost. Note that some events will pose dilemmas, with choices that can create interesting situations for the player later in the game. Mars is now listed as a colony, and is attached to our core world, is sending Earth its resources, and so the two have combined their planetary input values. While we're here, we'll build the capital mainframe improvement on this isolated biome tile, for a big boost to research, allowing us to race up the tech tree a little quicker. Also, we can add an orbital improvement to Earth. Let's add a recruiting station, further increasing our citizens' growth rate for the cost of 100 credits. This turn we discovered some new potential colonies, and so we're going to spend some control points and use the executive order called Draft Colonists to quickly spawn a fully manned colony ship at the expense of a small approval penalty. There are many executive orders to unlock in the game, and different civilizations will have their own sets to choose from. We'll continue to expand out into the sector, looking for planets of a high enough class that we can colonize, then install a governor. Here at turn 5, we've encountered a class 22 planet here in the Devoa system. Let's rush build our colony ship and send it over to colonize Devoa 2 before anybody else gets a chance to. We'll need to load a citizen onto our new colony ship. I'll pick Yasser O'Malley here, as he's got low expectations and will give less of an approval penalty to our new core world once it's established. We've now met our first neighbour, the Taurians. We'll need to research the universal translator technology in order to talk to them and determine their intentions. As your game progresses, you'll generate culture points, which can be spent on a number of different ideological traits according to an ideology. These represent the thrust of your civilization's cultural development and can unlock some impressive bonuses. The Terran Alliance have an affinity for individualism, and that gives them a discount to the number of culture points required to unlock each trait, so we'll pick independence here, which will unlock a new flagship and reduce the resource decay penalty for colonies. Note that certain ideological choices made in response to events will increase the associated ideology discount. The more you behave according to your desired ideology, the easier it is to unlock its benefits. Finally, we've colonized AOA2. Currently, it's sharing its planetary input with Earth, but it's quite far distant and so suffering a decay penalty. Let's assign a leader to govern it, again allowing us to manually control its development. A leader's statistics will improve resource production on the planet. AOA2 has a high score in minerals and wealth, so let's exploit that by picking a leader with high diligence and social respectively. Daniel Jit here has high scores across the board and will drastically boost all research, wealth, approval and manufacturing on the new core world. After assigning her to the governor role, we'll place a capital city and begin planning a new paradise. And so, we reach the end of the beginning of the game, and this should be enough to get you started on your road to victory. This is just a small portion of what Galactic Civilizations IV has to offer, and for more information on shipbuilding, warfare, diplomacy, trading and other mechanics, check the other videos in our series. As always, thanks for watching, and happy gaming.